How's it going, everyone? My name is George, and this is just my thoughts on an interesting rumor that came about today on the internet. A rumor that apparently Disney is looking to buy DC Comics and merge it with Marvel Studios. Now, this rumor came from inside scooper Charles Murphy on his website, and basically it talks about how Warner Brothers is looking to sell, or more media is looking to sell DC Comics after this Discovery merger. Now, there's been these growing rumors about maybe they might sell it off to Netflix or Amazon or maybe even Disney. Now, there was an article from CNBC which said that the merger is made to eventually have a future sale, but it doesn't really specify what the future sale is. So maybe that's the reason why this is happening. I mean, a lot of people assume that they're gonna sell DC. Like, we've heard these rumors before. But to Disney, I don't know. Especially if you want to compete against Disney. Like, Warner Brothers wants to compete against Disney. The last thing you want to do is sell something to Disney that will bring even more people to Disney Plus, bring more people to spend their money on Disney products, especially if DC is owned by Disney. Do I think this is possible? No. Now, don't get me wrong. It would be cool to see Marvel and DC cross over. On the other hand, I just don't see it happening at the moment. I know DC has had its struggles, its ups and downs, its inconsistencies, but DC's still making a lot of money from it. They obviously make a lot of money from Batman. They made a lot of money from the first Wonder Woman, and I know they didn't make a lot of box office money from Wonder Woman 1984 and got the reception that they wanted, but it was still a huge hit for HBO Max. Aquaman made $1 billion worldwide for them. Shazam, even though it didn't make as much money because of its small profit, not small profit, because of its small budget, sorry, the profit that it made was very good for DC and Warner Brothers. And Joker surprisingly made $1 billion worldwide and was their most profitable film because it was a low budget film to begin with. So I just don't see Warner Media at this very moment selling DC despite some of the inconsistencies, because they still make a lot of money from certain products. Now, I know people are going to say, well, what about Zack Snyder's films? The thing is with Snyder's films is because they require a big budget, they're not getting as much profit. As much as I love Snyder's films, they don't make as much money as they hope they could make. Maybe that can change in the future, assuming Restore Snyderverse ever does happen. I've kind of not given up hope, but I've toned it down because it is looking more and more unlikely. Although, assuming they put new leadership in and they call Zack, but I think Zack is looking to move on with Netflix on more Army of the Dead stuff. But I think he's also open to returning, but they would want him back first. They need to want to have him back. And speaking of Restore the Snyderverse, if this Disney deal does happen, I think this kills the idea of restoring the Snyderverse happening. Unless Kevin Feige is convinced that it could be beneficial to him. Maybe it is. Feige seems more open to stuff than some of these other people at Warner Brothers that seem to be anti-Snyder. But I don't know if Zack would return for Disney, because as much as I love the MCU, as much as I love Disney, Snyder's films are more darker than Disney films, are more darker than MCU films. Although I think the MCU is becoming more open to having darker content. But I don't know if Zack would want to come back if Disney owns it. That's what I am suggesting, because, like I said, Feige's still writing the show even if Zack Snyder were to come back. Feige would still be writing the show. There would have to be some kind of compromise, and that would assume that not everything that Zack would have wanted in Justice League 2 and 3 would be in Justice League 2 and 3 if Disney owned DC Comics and DC Films, and they said, hey, we'll let you do Justice League 2 and 3. I just don't see it happening at the moment. I could be wrong. I don't know what goes on, but it just feels weird that this would be happening, especially after the past week where we got announcements that there's going to be a Batgirl film for HBO Max. They're working on a new Batman cartoon with Bruce Timm, Matt Reeves, and J.J. Abrams, which actually looks pretty cool. And then you have that new Superman cartoon, which seems to rile up a lot of people, a lot of Superman fans. It just feels weird that they would sell it off right after announcing that we got all this DC stuff coming on Cartoon Network, on HBO Max. It just feels kind of off that they'd be doing that. And also, I think they were talking about, the excitement of having the DC Trinity when this whole thing was announced, this whole merger. So, if they're going to sell it off, I think they would wait a couple years to see how profitable it can be. And again, and this goes for any scenario that DC would sell it off to any company, not just Disney. If they sold it off to Netflix, Apple, Amazon, Warner Media would probably still find a way to hold on to certain rights to certain characters that have made them money, that they can still see making money for them, or in this case, at least Batman. Because Batman's been a huge moneymaker. There's a large focus on Batman movies, shows, video games. I love Batman. Batman's my favorite superhero character, tied with Spider-Man. But it's obvious Warner Brothers has favoritism towards Batman because Batman is a big name, it's a big brand, and it makes them a lot of money. So I can see them in some way holding on to at least the Batman rights, and in a way that's similar to how Sony still has the Spider-Man rights, even though Disney makes Spider-Man cartoons and Spider-Man still appears in their films. I can see Warner Brothers still doing that with Batman, or something similar along the lines. I just don't see it happening at the moment, especially when outside of maybe the MonsterVerse, they don't really have a big franchise that they could heavily rely on besides DC. Because Harry Potter, as far as Harry Potter goes, the Fantastic Beasts movies do make money. They do make a lot of money, but not as much money as the original Harry Potter movies were making for them. I think they have yet to know if the Dune franchise is going to be successful for them. The first Dune film comes out this October. It looks great, but they don't know if that's going to be a big franchise for them yet. They just don't really have other franchises at the moment that they see as potential big money makers. I'm not saying they don't have any franchises, but at the moment they don't really have something that they can work with that will make the same kind of money that Disney films make. Like, I think DC, whether it's Batman or maybe Aquaman, that's still probably your closest to getting $1 billion if you're DC. Now again, not all DC's characters will obviously make $1 billion, but something like Batman, or as we saw with Aquaman surprisingly making $1 billion, DC is still the most likely brand to get them there. That's just how I see it. I could be wrong. And who knows, maybe this is something that can happen. And again, a deal like this takes a long time. I remember when the Disney-Fox merger happened, I think it was announced back in 2017. It wasn't official until 2019, so it's not official. Same thing when Disney bought Marvel, because I think that was in 2009, but it wasn't official until 2012 because I'm getting all jingled up. Even though Marvel Studios was bought by Disney in 2009, Iron Man 2, which came out in 2010, Thor and Captain America the First Avenger, which both came out in 2011, they were still distributed by Paramount Pictures. They weren't by Disney. I think the first Avengers was the first film that Marvel Studios and Disney co-produced together. So these things take a long time to happen as well. But like I said, I see it as unlikely right now. Maybe it's just an idea that's being teased. Maybe this is just something to rile up fans. I saw a few days ago that a lot of fans were riled up when there was a rumor that Michael Keaton's Batman would be fighting against Deathstroke in the future, because a lot of people are very passionate about Ben Affleck's Batman fighting against Deathstroke, and that riled up a lot of fans. So something like this will rile up a lot of fans, even the fans that do want Warner Brothers to sell DC, because if they want Warner Brothers to sell DC, they don't want it to be sold to Disney. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on this pretty bizarre rumor. Like I said, I don't see it likely happening. It just seems very unlikely at the moment, especially when they just recently announced the Batgirl movie and those DC cartoons. But you never know. Maybe it's something they're teasing down the road if they're not seeing a profit from DC, or at least certain DC products. Because there's a possibility that they can do something similar to what Marvel did in the 90s, where they sold certain properties to different studios. Maybe that's an idea they're thinking of doing, selling certain characters to different studios. But like I said, I don't see them giving up at least Batman. Batman's a big moneymaker for them. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on this bizarre rumor. And what do you guys think about this? Do you think there's any truth to Disney looking to get DC Comics? Or do you think this is just another way to rile up the fans, or this is just something that scoopers are just throwing out there? Comment below and let me know. And I just want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm hoping tomorrow I can give you my Spider-Man review, my review of the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. And I hope you guys enjoy. And I hope to see you guys real soon. And I hope you guys are having a nice weekend. Take care, everyone.